Glad to have you back. It's now time to bring you part two of our discussions. Today we're looking at food inflation. Now, over the last 10 years, food production has been affected by the continuous conflicts between herders and farmers in the Middle Belt and terrorist attacks on farmers in the northeastern part of the country. Banditry in northwestern and other parts of the country have also led to reduced agricultural activities as many flee their farms for safety. Now, food prices in Nigeria have continued to surge in the last 1 year, even higher, with the latest data from the National Bureau of Statistics showing that the composite food index rose by 22.72% in the month of April from 15.03% in April 2020, comparing the two figures from each year. Now, according to the NBS and its selected food prices watch for the month of April, that's the just released report, it disclosed that the average price of a medium-sized Greek egg increased year-on-year by 18.32%, while the average price of 1 kilogram of tomato increased year-on-year by 0.09%, and the rise in food index was caused by increases in the prices of coffee, tea and cocoa, bread and cereal, soft drinks, milk, cheese and egg, vegetable, meat, oil and fats, fish and potatoes, as well as yam and other tubers. With the rise in price of food items amid a drop in inflation, the big question now is what will be the impact on the standard of living for the average Nigerian? Now, to look at this question and much more, I have joining me via phone to discuss this and much more as well. I have African Farmer Mogaji is an agribusiness coach and the chairman, Agro-Allied Group, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Good to have you on the show today, African Farmer Mogaji.
Yes, thank you for having me. I just dropped the portfolio of the chairman, Agric and Agro-Allied. I'm immediate pass now.
Oh, okay. Okay, well noted there. Now, let's start off with where we dropped our conversation the last time, looking at food inflation as well and the impact on the average Nigerian. The value of 1,000 naira's purchase can no longer be equivalent to what we have today now. With this latest report from the National Bureau of Statistics as well, putting things contextually in real terms, if you're having an increase in egg, for example, this translates to the increase in staple foods like bread as well. The Bakers Association are calling for an increase at least 30% in the cost of bread. So any increase in this price now means Nigerians will pay almost twice the amount. What do you make of this report?
Well, I think the reality now is that we've moved beyond insurgency, insecurity. We're now almost getting into a full-fledged food war. Because, yes, the dollar against the naira maybe have issues. COVID might have hit hard, but the most challenging thing now affecting these food prices beyond climate change is the insecurity. So farmers are not having access to private sector funding like they used to. It's affecting people like us also. We're having to adapt to new restructure how we access funding because the private sector is getting more skeptical because the only thing they're hearing is the challenges, killings here and there. So we've not seen the end. It's just at the beginning because as everything is going up, this is the beginning of the season. We've not gotten into the peak of the season. Last year is what is influencing now. So between the next 3 months and the end of mid next year, that is when we are really going to see the effect if security issues is not reduced.
If security situation is not reviewed, definitely would have to deal with a bigger chunk of inflationary pressure. But do you think at any point in time now, the seasonal pattern of that we have on ground for food production might likely temper down the inflationary pressure, looking at bumper harvest? Do you think we can have any of that?
It's not. It's not going to. Why? Take, for instance, our case now. This year, we've had to relocate our operational farms to a different state to start again because of insurgency and security. So what that means is that new overheads new adaptation, and people are migrating to smaller farms as against the mid and big ones that they operate. So as long as we're having to spend more, our investors also, what that means is that you may not be able to pay dividend when you ought to pay dividend. If you take a loan, you have to go and restructure. So all this is not going to make the prices go down. It's going to go higher. The seeds are getting more expensive. Fertilizer is 15,000. Good fertilizer is 15,000 per bag, as against 8,000-9,000 last year. And it's going higher. So what that means is that as the prices are going higher, the consumers have to pay for it. Labor is also going higher. Power is going higher. Water, everything. So it's not looking good. However, I always say this as Nigerians, when we're committed to doing anything, we get it done in record time. So there's still hope.
And African Farmer Mogaji, just before I let you go now, looking at conversations around having new regional hubs, we have to take that a little more seriously at this point in time if we are going to attempt to counter the inflationary pressures we're dealing with and then increase production. How serious of a conversation do you think agribusiness partners and investors at state level should drive the conversation alongside state governments?
Well, so it's very crucial, but I'm seeing a huge lapse on the part of the government. You're not finding government calling stakeholders to an investment roundtable. You're finding government talking about what they want to do, and they don't have the funding. So most governments are talking about, most especially states, most state governments are talking about agriculture and private sector involvement, but the activities and action is still showing a developmental project, which is not appealing. They're not speaking the language of both local and foreign investors. So it's still not looking good. They need to know for private sector, it's business, and not business as usual.
And now, lastly, how do you think all of this would also affect the prices of these commodities on the international market? Look at cocoa, look at maize, and a whole lot more. Soybeans as well.
Well, so two people will be negatively affected with that. The farmers and the exporters, because it's what you buy that you sell. So if your production increases, that means you're not competitive in the international market. So Côte d'Ivoire, Ghana, and the likes would have the market. So bottom line is that it's not looking good, but we have to fix it. The fact that we have challenges also means that it's an opportunity, and we can get it done. We only need the leadership in government to just give us some landing, soft landing space, and we'll take over. The value chain operators are more determined because our livelihood is at stake, and so we're not going to put it in the hands of government. But there's nothing you can do in the agri value chain globally that you don't need government as that bedrock. But it's no matter how bleak it's looking now, it's still going to be a huge opportunity. We're still going to smile at the end of the day.
Hopefully there's light at the end of the tunnel, and then we also see government take much more seriously the issue around tackling insecurity. It's quite critical to do that, and the biggest incentive we can have for business at this point in time is to have a safe business climate and also ensure that areas of infrastructure, power, access to funding, and a whole lot more creates this wholesome appeal to be able to sustain any agribusiness at this point in time. Thank you very much once again on the show for your time. We've been speaking with agribusiness coach, African Farmer Mogaji. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you for having me.